School. No one in my family. I was in nobody's watch. So I've been got to bed for 4 or 5 days. More and more. I feel fine though, which is good. I feel fine.
No, how bad? Yeah, they're really, I wish they had a little more room. They're nicer than the Chevys, of course. They,
For that.
yeah, the driver stays in his lane, they'll stop. He doesn't adjust the distance between the car. They'll stop. They'll only get done. Heated seats. Heated seats, all that stuff. They're nice vehicles. They're all wheel drive. I've had mine now for a couple of years and never been issues. Drive a car. But I'm carrying forward.
I sort of joke, I started off on sport. I migrated to the old side.
Oh, I was in that. I was in there the night before that. You know what? They made a replica of Jack in the Box.
Good to know.
Then you see stuff play out at the beginning of the season. So you kind of know where it came from. I thought it was something like, just because I went to spring training, I was
The owner loves Jack in the Box hot dogs, so school replica, but they're better.
go right at me, you know.
Now, like, I saw these players play. I also hear hockey videos. So like I hear like bros
But you get like 6 or something.
I'm more aware.
You see the mechanics, how you go to see some other players so pretty that
I can eat 14 times. Back when it was 99 cents. They're still down. They're $1.
Like 10 or 12 feet down the hall, and then you go.
After I go get a cold.
I go get a breakfast more money.
But I love those guys.
Not so much. Not so much.
Oh, yeah.
Well, they're just,
They're different.
they're unique. It may not be everybody's cup of tea.
So I used to work with a reporter in South
Only
Carolina,
reporters go like
and he used to eat them almost every day. And I said, those are disgusting. And I go, how can you eat those? They're greasy. Yeah. I go, how can you eat those? You gotta try one, man. So for 4 years I worked with this guy. So I get the job here, right? So it's our last week working together. So he orders the 6 tacos and a Coke. He goes, you gotta try one before you leave. Okay. I pull over, peel it back, eat it, you know, I do an angel sing. It was like, It was like, oh my God, did you do it? He goes, you're joking. I go, no, I'm not joking. You can't eat them every day.
No.
All cholesterol. But
They're
they are
probably
that good.
more things.
And I said, first place I ate, I got here. I moved here January 2nd. I just started my job on January 9th.
Like, I don't have yet,
Doing
like,
orientation,
talked about
and then
having
I go, they go, okay, you can go have lunch now. I go, do you have a Jackson box?
So I didn't-
He goes, yeah, just not that. Grab boy, right, we'll be on the because we know this is before GPS. So they're trying to explain to
The
them.
thing is, I don't.
Try not to go on.
But at least for hikes, at least for like small
Okay,
parts,
first place I ate was at that Jackson.
I need an apple.
Not that one. But I don't know if we'll go to Jackson, but I said, hey, these ones are so much better.
This was your first time there?
Yeah, first time.
Yeah.
This lady told Caroline and I that was, and she hasn't tried it. What are we doing? I went, with my wife the other night.
Make sure you have a strap.
Do what?
Make sure you have a strap.
Yeah, well, I'm always strapped. It's, not at work. And, yeah. It didn't happen.
Yeah.
I don't blame you, man.
Like,
That's all you have to do.
People need to read it.
It's
at
beautiful.
the end of the day, it's probably just best what's easiest for you guys. Because if everyone becomes easier, that's great, but like, for me, it's about starting it, isn't it? Weird.
I decided to surprise myself. Water,
Good morning. I announced my candidacy for the Democratic nomination to the U.S. Senate earlier this year because I felt that our country was in crisis and that our future as a democracy was in peril. Josh Hawley has long abandoned our democratic principles and ignores the needs of Missourians. I saw the parallels to what St. Louis County faced after Ferguson, where the elected leadership was unable and unwilling to meet the challenges before us. Indeed, recently, polling showed that I was the Democratic candidate in the best position to take on Josh Hawley in November of 2024. But over the last several weeks, as I've campaigned around the state, I've heard one refrain from Democrats above all else. We need you in Washington, but St. Louis needs you in the House of Representatives. So after thoughtful consideration and consultation with respected and committed community and political leaders, I am formally withdrawing as a candidate for the U.S. Senate and announcing my candidacy for the Democratic nomination to the U.S. House of Representatives for Missouri's 1st Congressional District. And with that, I'll take questions.
What specifically is making you switch, Counselor?
You know what? Our world is in a dangerous place, and we need steady and effective leadership, and we're not getting it here in the 1st District.
What is it about Congresswoman Bush that's specifically not providing that leadership?
You know, this is nothing personal against the Congresswoman. But what I see is when I look at, as a prosecutor, I have to look at the law and I have to make the right decisions. And when I look at the infrastructure bills, when I look at working with other community partners, that's the way we've been able to be successful in St. Louis County, and we need more of that in Washington, D.C. as well.
Do you feel Cori Bush is an easier target, easier opponent?
It's not about that. To me, it's about we do need to get rid of Josh Hawley, but we have viable candidates. But we do have viable candidates that can do that. But the growing calls that I got, and honestly, even before I got in the race, were you should consider this race because this district needs it. And as I got around the state and even in DC, that those calls grew louder and louder. And with the fact of having viable candidates in the U.S. Senate race, I felt that we needed that steady and effective leadership right here in the district.
You're suggesting that Democrats want her out, and I noticed you also said the world's a dangerous place. What do you make of her comments within the first few hours of Israel having the deadliest terror attack it's had since the Holocaust? She calls to defund the Israeli military. Is that the stance the Democratic Party should adopt right now? What would you do there?
I think that it's very clear from responses from Democrats, from local government all the way to DC, that is not what Democrats feel is the appropriate response. And understanding this unique place that we are with the world literally on fire, I think that we need to make certain that we are providing that effective leadership, not only in our district, but in DC and on the world stage.
Are you planning on, who are you planning on endorsing anybody in the Senate race?
I haven't gotten to that point. Obviously, there's two candidates that I have, one that I know very well, one that I've gotten to know, and I do think that they are viable candidates. And again, I think that when I look at that race and understanding that we have to beat Josh Hawley, I am comfortable in the sense that we have candidates that can do that. But there's a problem. But I do think that there's issues that we need to address at home and in this district. And I think we need leadership. I think we need folks who are going to support President Biden's agenda, that's going to support the Democrats' agenda. And the infrastructure bill is an example of that. Voting to raise the debt, not voting to raise the debt ceiling is an example of that. And I just think we need more effective leadership right here in District 1.
You're switching to a congressional district that the Democrats are going to win, right? That's just the way it is. There is no other way around it. Would you be running if there was a different congressperson other than Cori Bush? What it is it about her leadership that makes you say, I can't just sit this out? I understand that you're leaving the Senate race because you think it's in good hands, but to switch to this race and say, this district needs help. Where is she failing? Why does it need you?
I think that, again, in my role as St. Louis County Prosecutor, this is a unique place. 88 municipalities, 55 police departments. And we work together. And that's not by accident or happenstance. That was deliberately reaching out, building those relationships so that we could move this county forward. And I think that's the exact approach that we have to have in DC. And that's the steady and effective leadership that I alluded to earlier, that we need in DC, particularly in times like these, where when we look around the world with our Democratic allies in the Ukraine, our Democratic allies in Israel, looking for ways to bring about peace, and supporting our allies. We need folks in Washington, D.C. that are going to work together, that are going to stand together, but also be effective and build that consensus and build that and be able to get legislation passed that benefits people right here in this district.
Both of you paved your paths to power in the aftermath of Ferguson. I don't know if you think that at some point your path and hers diverged or different. For example, you've called to expand police and law enforcement funding. She's called to defund police there. Do you feel that there's a contrast between the two of you there? Why is her path different or wrong?
I think your question answers gives the answer. That defund the police, it not only was misguided, but it hurt Democrats. It gave Republicans the red meat they needed And many believe that it contributed to why Democrats lost the House of Representatives in the midterms. What I believe is that we need to work together with community stakeholders, with activists, with law enforcement. And I have a proven track record of doing that. And so if we're gonna improve our criminal justice system, for example, we need all the community stakeholders at the table giving input.
Would you rule out a future run for Senate?
I'm sorry?
Would you rule out a future run for Senate?
I think many of you who know me, who've been around here for a while, once I get something in my head and it's the right thing to do, that's what I'm focused on. And so right now, after a lot of conversations from community stakeholders, elected leaders around the region, this is the right thing to do.
Are you comfortable with the Israeli military's airstrikes and invasion of Gaza, or would you condition aid to Israel on them altering their behavior?
I think we have to stand with our allies, and Israel's always been an ally, but we always want to keep the door open for a two-state solution. But there has to be, but we cannot give aid and comfort to terrorist organizations. And Hamas is a terrorist organization, and Israel has the right to defend themselves. And as someone, and I'll tell you, I was in Israel in 2017 when the president at the time announced that he was moving the embassy. I'm sorry. Thank you. And I was at a kibbutz, and when we were talking to someone who lived in the kibbutz, the group that I was with, and they showed us the bomb shelters, and they said, when those bomb sirens go off, you have to drop everything you're doing, and you have 10 seconds to get 10, 12, whatever the number was, about 10 seconds to get in the bomb shelter. We saw that. We saw them. We wanted to stay, but our guide told us we needed to leave. There was other things to do, and so as we were leaving, about 45 minutes to an hour later, those sirens went off. And had we still been there, we would have been scrambling into the bomb shelter. Now, fortunately, the Iron Dome deflected them, so we would not have been in harm's way. But with that said, when you are living under the constant threat of Hamas, Hezbollah firing rockets, and Israel's a very small place, I think it's misguided to not understand how complex this situation is. But we must stand with our allies. But then we still want to find a peaceful resolution and leave the door open for a two-state solution. But we have to address these issues on the ground.
Somebody primaried Cori Bush in 2022, and that person lost by like 40 percentage points. What makes you think that you're going to do better than Steve Roberts did?
Someone primaried me and they lost by a similar amount. I think when you're doing what's right, you do what's right. And as prosecutor, I have to make some very tough decisions. But at the end of the day, if I know that I'm making the right decision, I can deal with the fallout. And in this case, this district needs steady and effective leadership. This country needs steady and effective leadership. And I'm making this run because I believe it's the right thing to do.
Are you confident you're going to be the only person in this race challenging Cori Bush? I've heard rumors that Senator Brian Williams is also considering that as well.
Here's the thing, and it's essentially the same answer. If you're doing the right thing, and I have the relationships that I've established in this region, we're going to do it. And others will make their decisions, but I've made mine.
Who's going to be running your office while you're campaigning?
I'm running my office. That's not going to change. The good thing about one of the good things that came out of the pandemic, which obviously was terrible, was that our office is much more remote now. Obviously, we're in the office every day, but if something happens now, you know, my office is gonna call me, and we're gonna deal with that situation. We have 140 folks, and they're mission oriented. They do an amazing job. And so, and honestly, this district is right here at home, and so it won't take me around the state like the other one. So on that standpoint, it's a lot less challenging. So.
Were you recruited or nudged in this direction? When you talk about, you know, I'm not just talking about in your own mind, but contacts of people you say you've worked with throughout the county, all these different municipalities and other Democrat power brokers, if you will, where they're like, Wesley, Senate's good, we need you here.
That's the exact sentiment. And before I got into the Senate race, the sentiment was, hey, we'll support you. You know, and I'm just, you know, paraphrasing, but we'll support you, but the district needs you in this race. And running statewide illustrated that need even more. Even when I would be in places like Kansas City, I would hear those calls that, hey, this is, you know, we'll support you, but, you know, the district needs you. And so here we are, and I think you all know me. We're gonna work, we're gonna get out there, we're gonna take our message to every corner of this district. We're gonna talk to folks, and we're gonna make our case, and I'm confident that we'll be succceful.
Okay, I think that's about all the time we have, guys. Thank you.
We got time for
Call
more.
Cori Bush, let her know you're running.
I did reach out. I haven't talked to her as of yet, but I did reach out. And so we'll have those conversations as soon as she's okay with that.
Is there something you think she's done well these 4 years in Congress?
Mark, here's the deal. We need steady and effective leadership in DC. And we need leadership that will stand with the president, that will stand with our allies, but also represent this district. And that's why I'm running.
Have you been
Thank you.
contacted by any Jewish organizations, either local or national, specifically about this race?
I think if you name an individual groups or individual constituents, they've reached out. So whether it be from the African American community overwhelmingly, from the Jewish community, from the Asian community, Hispanic community, the calls have been continuous throughout, and some of them have even been reported in media. So, okay. And
All right.
thank you.
Thank you, everyone.